Albert Einstein, helemaal vanochtend vroeg hadden we hem al eens genoemd, die zei ooit: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Het is gekkigheid om te verwachten dat je dingen alsmaar hetzelfde blijft doen, dat je dan andere en misschien zelfs betere resultaten haalt. Dat is niet zo. Dat is niet geniaal, dat is vrij logisch. Maar heel veel wordt er toch nog wel tegen die wet gezondigd. Omdat mensen denken, nou ja, misschien krijg ik toch wel andere resultaten. We krijgen zo meteen een spreker, Jeff Martin, lange tijd executive bij Apple. Nou, samengewerkt wat ik net zei met Steve Jobs. En die is een van de oprichters van een programma, een project Einstein Legacy. En een van de aanleidingen daarvoor is dat het vorig jaar 100 jaar geleden was dat Albert Einstein met zijn relativiteitstheorie kwam. En wat zij doen in dat project is onderwijs verbeteren. Zoals je net tegen mij zei, make science cool again. Kijken of je het onderwijs meer kunt aanpassen aan de wetten van de 21ste eeuw, van 2016 en later. Eigenlijk waar we vandaag steeds over praten. Als je over medewerkers en motivatie enzovoort praat, dan praat je natuurlijk ook over mensen, mannen, vrouwen, die opgeleid zijn voor de eisen van deze 21ste eeuw. Jeff gaat daar vanuit zijn van de Amerikaans, maar ook heel erg internationale perspectief over praten. It's a pleasure and honor to introduce you, Mr. Jeff Martin. Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I am honored to be here today. As he said, I am Jeff Martin, and I am looking for the next Einstein. Is there anybody out there that's the next Einstein? I can't see the hands. Little modesty. I love that Dutch modesty. That's always very admirable. But actually, I'm looking for 10 million Einsteins, which is the statistical model of finding Einsteins in places that we don't expect, finding them that may not be the best writers or the best communicators, or in schools that don't have a science lab. And what I'll be talking about today is in the Einstein Legacy Project, which is recognizing the 100th anniversary of relativity last November, how do we find the next Einsteins? In fact, the Einstein Legacy Project is about creating a new Nobel Prize called the Einstein Legacy Prize that Nobel Prize winners will hand to the new generation of the new Einsteins. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what Einstein means to me and the way that it inspired me and the debt that I feel I need to repay as an icon that it's influenced me. And then I'm going to talk, secondly, about how we find Einsteins. Where are they? How do we support them? How do we make science cool long enough to inspire them to show us their insights and innovation? So in beginning my narrative, I will never forget when Steve Jobs came back to Apple. It was many years ago. I haven't been at Apple for a long time. But back then, when Apple bought Next and Steve Jobs became ultimately the new CEO of Apple, the first TV ad campaign we did was called Think Different. I'm sure many of you remember it. But what's particularly fascinating was when Apple was trying to tell the world, don't give up on us. We can turn this around. Yes, we're near death. Yes, we almost didn't make payroll twice. But there was an icon we reached out to in Think Different that I will never forget. I remember in the boardroom looking at all these, as they were called by the ad agency, dead icons. Thomas Edison, Nina Simone, Amelia Earhart, and many others. It was Einstein we all gravitated to. So I'd like to take a moment and remind myself that when it came to thinking different and defining innovation and taking risks with human curiosity and tenacity, in many ways that journey began for me and how we reached out to Einstein at Apple to put out there a new goal, to create a new company about innovation. Could we show the Think Different commercial?
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
So that ad campaign seems decades ago. It was 1997. And the part that really foreshadowed the world I would move into as I became a parent and moved on from Apple was the young girl at the end of that commercial. Probably the most foreshadowing of the world we're in today. A world where we need scientists to not just be men or young boys that like science, but girls. The future of our world will be determined by girls and women. And I say that because my mom is an astrophysicist and mathematician. And when I was young and very rebellious, she put Einstein out as an inspiration for me well before I was at Apple Computer with Think Different, as an example of somebody who would innovate in the most unexpected places. Einstein working in a patent office in Germany and developing the theory of relativity at night as a young father with a child with colic. Imagine innovating an idea as an after-hour activity with the impact of the theory of relativity. And what worries me is we don't even think about relativity anymore. There would be no cell phone without relativity and the impact of gravity and GPS. So many of the innovations that today exist in our everyday lives came from an idea that didn't even always have the math to support the vision in physics. And what's fascinating about Einstein, it wasn't a manic episode of 48 hours after hours from work where he developed the theory of relativity. It was a 7-year journey. In fact, he crowdsourced it with some of the greatest mathematicians of his day, who are actually mathematicians to equal him in his physics. So when I look at Einstein and say, what can we learn at this 100th anniversary of relativity? What the Einstein Legacy Project strives to do is to tell that story again in a moment that the world has never needed Einsteins more than today. With the world's problems and the things that we're facing today, the biggest challenges ever in population, gender equality, and many other things, we need to find the innovators. And we need to be reminded that Einstein wasn't about academic elitism. Princeton came later in life. Einstein was about human curiosity and the tenacity that follows human curiosity, that we don't give up. Even Apple, in not giving up in the near-death experience of turning the company around, reached out to Einstein first. So when we look at today, how do we find Einsteins? Well, the Einsteins of today, if we're going to find them for 2017 in the first Einstein or the next Einstein Legacy Prize, September 10th, we're going to find them on this device. And not this device, literally an iPhone, this Android, any phone, smartphone, tablets. In fact, with the ubiquity and cost of goods getting down to $15 cost of goods to make a mobile device, and with mobile cell coverage being more prolific than even a toilet in many parts of the developing world, this has become the third hand. Now, the interesting thing is I look back on my career and I think of this as a convergent device for music. It's certainly a convergent device for mobile payments now. But you may not know that Einstein would look at this device today, in my opinion, as a convergent device as the science lab. Everything that was in the science lab when I was young is now on smartphones. And you will see through apps that are released around the world in April on devices, starting with the Middle East. This is a colorimeter. It's a spectrophotometer. It's certainly an accelerometer, microscope, telescope, and many other things. In fact, parts of the world that don't even have a science lab will be able to use this device to learn how to engage in query-based learning, how to connect with their world through the magic and solving mysteries that science can be before we make it about test scores and grades and the classroom. And in fact, even the parts of the world that do have science labs will be using this device as we find the next Einsteins through query-based learning. And what you'll hear a lot about is something called citizen science. We are very lucky to have 15 Nobel Prize winners for science, the Smithsonian Institute, Hebrew University in Jerusalem that Albert Einstein founded with Sigmund Freud. Think about that for a moment. Albert Einstein founded a university with Sigmund Freud because he believed education, in many ways, was the theory of social relativity. But what we've done that's really unwise in my generation is we've made school uncool. We've made the theory of relativity something that we don't strive to understand anymore. We've made the idea of school about test scores and grades, all of which stifle innovation. So much like this device allowed us to personalize our playlist of music, citizen science will start launching in the world this spring with the Einstein Legacy Project to encourage young people to use the phone to capture data that the world's top scientists are looking for. So for example, if you take a picture of a leaf and you send that photo through your phone to a server in Washington with the Smithsonian Institute, the largest scientific research institute in the world, scientists will be able to know immediately with metadata and search tools where that leaf is from a tree, what kind of tree it is, and the location from which that photo was taken. And from a heat map perspective, with the millions of kids that we've already started doing this with, see how trees are moving north with climate change. Or see how species are changing in their migration because we took a photo of them. In fact, there will be over 200 different projects that the scientists of the world are going to reach out to young people on their devices to ask them every day to help them in using this device to become a citizen of the world. That's the root of citizen science. It's for citizens and young people to have the baton passed to them by scientists in the world's top universities, here in the Netherlands and Jerusalem and Stanford and many others, to actually help scientists with the most important projects of the day by not just taking a picture of a leaf, but measuring the air outside their home, measuring the salinity of water in the Arabian Sea or the temperature, taking a GoPro camera from skiing and uploading that video from their skiing and comparing that to the 100,000 other skiers who are going down the same mountain in Europe and the impact on the glaciers and ice, or a diver that dives underneath the ocean, and of 10,000 divers that might have dived around a coral, show the scientists that same coral through different divers through time and space, temporal and spatial data. So we're about to see the first time ever that the scientific community and its genius of realizing that it's now going to become the young people's world, to ask them to be citizens, and with the Einstein Legacy Project, starting in the Middle East in April, use their phone to provide data, more data points than science has ever had. Now, part of this is to make these young people feel important, to let them realize that every day they can collaborate, not just with their music stars or their famous athletes that they aspire to be, but more likely to provide scientists more data points than we've ever had to understand how to help our world. And by doing that, every kid can feel important, that what they're doing, Nobel Prize winners and scientists as part of the Einstein Legacy Project are asking their help. And what's nice about this is this will remind them that science is about really not test scores, magic and secrets and solving mysteries. And celebrities will be endorsing this program to say to them, don't be me, Messi or Ronaldo or will.i.am or Taylor Swift, because likely that's not possible. The path to your future as a citizen of the world and citizen science is to become a scientist itself, or an engineer, or a technologist, or mathematician. In fact, if we reach girls now, according to the United Nations, by 4th or 5th grade, by showing them science is cool, we have a chance to make that a career that they can control their own destiny. So in many ways, the 100th anniversary of the theory of relativity is to recognize that we don't need one Einstein. We need to find them in sub-Saharan Africa. We need to find them in Santiago, Chile. We need to find them in The Hague, as well as Palo Alto, California. And they will be using this device, and we will reach out to them and reward them with scholarships, internships, and even the new Einstein Legacy Prize, to reward them at a young age to innovate and to try to think different. So when we look at the 100th anniversary of the theory of relativity, my God, a man actually had an idea that the sun and that gravity could bend light, that time is different based on where you are with the gravitational pull and the speed of light, that even the axis of how planets turn is not what we thought it was. And thank God there was a solar eclipse in the 20s that actually proved Einstein right, and thank God there were mathematicians like Weissman who could actually collaborate with him to use math to prove his vision. But today, the third hand is this device. And if we can get young people to feel important, because they are important, to get them to realize that every day there's scientists reaching out to them, no matter where they are, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, Chicago, The Hague, or Santiago, to take data from their phone and provide data and crowdsourcing data that scientists are desperate to need. And to teach them that maybe they can play a little bit less Candy Crush and become citizens of the world from the screen by connecting with the world itself. Not just by measuring air and the quality of water, but also realizing that kids have more in common as citizens of the world than they have as differences. So it's our hope that we're going to create these digital breadcrumbs, this path, this journey for young girls and young boys to realize the way to science is to be a citizen of the world with this device, and to reward the ones that stay with it, like Einstein, with human curiosity and tenacity, with scholarships and internships to keep them in school, funded by corporations that someday may hire them. And to reward the great innovators with the Einstein Legacy Prize. As one of my colleagues, Alon, talks about when we met with 15 living Nobel Prize winners to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the theory of relativity last summer, they talked about how the Nobel Prize is almost like a gold watch in retirement at the end of your career. That if people had found them young, in their 20s, when they were doing their best work, they could have actually maybe even done more. And that's why they inspired us to realize that the new Nobel Prize, the new Einstein Legacy Prize, is to find those young people beyond citizen science, beyond school, to give them a path to realize that science is really about empowerment. Science is about autonomy. Science is about every problem can be solved if we're just tenacious and we're curious. So as I reflect on the times and good fortune I've had, and I've been very lucky, I've been at the right place at the right time, more than smart. And I think to myself, my mom, who was an astrophysicist, saying when I was young, think of all the Einsteins that the world has never heard from, who didn't go to the right school, or weren't good communicators, or were good at science but not good at math. We have to find them because someday the world will need them to have a future. And what I am excited about with the Einstein Legacy Project is the Nobel Prize winners of today want to hand that baton off literally by giving the Einstein Legacy Prize themselves to the people we find early that may even start in their early days of school by realizing that if this is a science lab, science is in their fingertips and in their pocket in the form of a cell phone. So I hope that many of us at Silicon Valley are not remembered for this as a music device or as a credit card, but that the iTunes of STEM is kids picking projects to help scientists do the most important thing in their day, that once they're in the classroom, they have the confidence to raise their hand and realize that science is really about empowerment. As the UN has taught me, the entire future of our world is going to be about bringing girls and women into science. Silicon Valley is abysmal in how we have pretty much made it a male gender-based industry. It is embarrassing. And if we can reach young girls with the excitement of doing something important and collaborating with scientists with no middleman through this device, not just taking pictures of leaves or measuring the air, but many things we haven't even thought of now that are possible with this phone as a science lab, a convergent device in a whole new way, then we truly can change the world. And we can have 500 million young people through these apps distributed on phones as preloads in partnership with the Einstein Legacy Project and Smithsonian to actually make sure never again can we say climate change or whatever the issue is about science opinion, but actually science fact, rooted with real data, query-based learning, human curiosity and tenacity from this device that is the great equalizer when it comes to letting all genders, all religions, all persuasions access the world around them, and maybe play Candy Crush just a little bit less. So the Einstein Legacy Project is to hark back to 100 years ago and a 20-year-old new father in a German patent office and realize that if he can think of an idea that we hadn't even imagined, cell phones and GPS and many other things, maybe we can find not just one Einstein, but tens of millions. The world has never needed them more, and they need to be of all genders, all religions, all socioeconomic groups, and all citizens of our world. Thank you very much for your patience and attention. I deliberately left a little time in case there's questions,
That's
or you
great.
can ask questions.
Yeah. Any questions on your side?
Or any Einsteins.
Yeah. Jump. This is your chance. Any questions? How do people react? Let's start with teachers. What do teachers say?
I have, in my whole career, I've never seen people more excited. Well, first let me start with scientists. They really believe that this is the way they hand the baton to the new generation. And they are literally thinking of research projects they couldn't do before because they didn't have enough data points.
They come up with all kinds of ideas.
It's unbelievable.
Why did you do this and that?
Well, they're realizing that one of the problems science has is it doesn't have the ability in the ocean or the air to have what's both temporal and spatial data. In other words, time and place. But if they have an army of young people working with them, as citizens of the world, they can actually get more in control of what our world is becoming to respond quicker. Educators love it because, frankly, this is about young people making science theirs outside the classroom. So when they're in the classroom, that young girl raises the hand because she's confident, even if the boys tease her. So I find educators, particularly women educators, feel that this is more about empowerment and autonomy than it is even science, and they've been extremely supportive. And you'll see that starting in April, you'll see announcements all over the world. In fact, we plan to have young people be able to launch this by doing experiments on their phone with the astronauts in space.
Wow.
In fact, the same cell phone with their feet firmly rooted on the ground in the Middle East, they will be able to touch the heavens with astronauts, doing experiments and capturing data simply from where they stand. In fact, they'll be touching the heavens, and in this case, it'll have nothing to do with religion or sectarianism. It'll have to do with science as empowerment.
Okay. Yeah, over here, please. Do we have mics?
And I can repeat your question if you...
How loud are you? Give it a shot. Oh, there's a mic coming up.
Hallo Jeff.
Hi.
Kunnen we de zaalmicrofoon aan?
Hello.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hello Jeff and welcome back.
Thank you.
What can we do for you?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's what we can do ourselves for the young generation. Certainly, I should tell you, there'll be a movie about Einstein coming out in another year in IMAX theaters, talking about, with young kids, what it is to be Einstein and be cool. There'll be a book from the 100 most, I think, great innovators of our world, talking about how Einstein inspired people in industries that had nothing to do with science. And certainly the Einstein Legacy Prize will be a chance for us to really honor young people in a way that they need it when they're young, so they don't have student debt if they're in school. But I think the thing that I ask everyone to do is to realize we all make mistakes. We made mistakes as a generation. What we can do now is to support young girls loving science, technology, engineering, and math. No industry will last with just one gender, just like no country can help the world alone. And I think the key thing is to tell young girls, as Taylor Swift says to me, it's empowerment. She likes to beat up old boyfriends through the lyrics of her songs, but she also said that when she was young, science was something that made her connect with the world and be confident. And I think we should all find a young girl in our life, whether it be a daughter or a girl that lives down the street or somebody, even a young woman in our office, and realize that if we bring all our genders together in the world together as citizens of the world, not a country or religion, we can almost solve anything. As my young 7-year-old boy says, what are we going to invent today, Daddy? So I ask all of you to be patrons, like Einstein, of young people, and let's make science cool. Let's want to know about relativity. Let's understand that the greatest idea of the world was only the one we knew of. Think of all the other ideas we never got to hear. And let's honor girls as the future of our world and the scientists of the future, or inspire them to be innovators in entrepreneurship and other areas, and art and so forth. That's what I think Einstein would like his legacy to be. And again, I just found out he founded a university. Think of that. Einstein and Sigmund Freud started a college. I actually look at that as his theory of social, well, absolutely, of social relativity, that education is the answer, but not if we make it about being smart. We got to make it about being citizens of the world and make it exciting. So that's what we can do. Sponsor a girl.
Sponsor a girl, yeah. I got a question over here, please.
Hi, Jeff. Hello. One question that I think
a little louder, please.
One question.
Sorry, I know him. I was giving him a hard time.
How is this relevant to corporations and to businesses, and why can it be meaningful to businesses to participate?
Yeah. This is really important, and it's something that when I talk to academics, and I obviously got the good fortune to attend a lot of good schools, they get angry at me. But students are not the customer of education. Employers are. Corporations are. We've got to give them a seat at the table. It's really funny because if students were really the customers of education, I got to tell you right now, I'd still be in school, okay? Because I loved school. But the reality is that employers need a skilled labor force. And whether you're Saudi Arabia, which by the way has more smartphones per youth per capita in the world. Nigeria number 2. This is, again, where people don't realize how fast mobile technology is democratizing access. But the reality is that corporations are not getting skilled workers. Apple Computer, one of the most secret things at Apple is they have a university to retrain you when you come and work there. If you go with me, and I travel a lot in Africa, I've been in 80 countries in the last 3 years, you will see that there are millions of jobs in healthcare for young people that have nothing to do with being a doctor or nurse, just research. In energy, there is no future of energy if young people don't know about the jobs. But in this celebrity culture, all these young people want to be music artists and sports athletes. And my good friend Will I Am says, don't be me, because it's statistically not going to happen. Be a scientist, be a technologist, be an engineer, be an innovator, be an entrepreneur. So corporations have got to play a big role in the Einstein Legacy Project because, let's face it, I'm not an Einstein. But if I can be young and learn and start getting excited about science before I'm in the classroom, and corporations give me internships and scholarships to stay with it because I might have a job the day I graduate, that's not just a job in Kenya, that's a job in Chicago or The Hague. So corporations are partnering with us, the energy industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the banking industry, to recognize that it's time they got involved outside the classroom by actually providing rewards for doing citizen science. And subtly making the point to dads or genders that push, as we know with girls, not to follow science because it's not feminine enough, to realize, well, darn it, there's, GE is sponsoring science camp, and there might be a scholarship to keep my daughter in college. And if my daughter's going to get a job when she graduates because she's staying with this, well, maybe I can also know she'll be on her own and she'll be secure. So corporations are going to be a big part of this, and you'll see they sponsor the Einstein Legacy Prizes themselves because they too need to understand that our future is now our youth. And screenagers, what I call millennials, need to know that corporations, long-term are a job, short-term can be an answer to a problem, and empower them in a way that Taylor Swift and Messi would also respect.
What if people can go to your website to get more information? Suppose they have a great idea, being a teacher, being a parent, being a student. What do they do? I mean, can they come up with suggestions, plans, proposals? What do they do?
Well, this is actually really exciting. So actually the website, everything launches in citizen science, the Einstein Legacy Project, late this spring. So you're actually hearing it first. It was decided by Hubei University in Jerusalem, what Einstein founded, and the Einstein Legacy Project globally, that, believe it or not, the Netherlands was one of the first countries we went to talk about this because you have a history of innovation. I mean, think about necessity being the mother of invention. Netherlands is a country that dealt with the challenge of keeping the water out and in the canals, right? Innovation has been here for hundreds of years. Einstein's best work, in many cases, if you talk to academics, was here in the Netherlands when he was academic. So I feel that we wanted to give you the trailer to the movie. If you will, the movie, the story, the big announcements will come in April, starting with the Middle East and roll out throughout the world. But we're here to get your thinking now. And you'll see websites launch, you'll see big press announcements, you'll see Nobel Prize winners. A lot of the celebrity world's going to embrace this because they too get that they need to help their fans when it relates to education and make it cool. So this is just the beginning. You're actually hearing it early. And part of that is the heritage of the role the Netherlands played in Einstein's career. And part of it is the incredible innovative culture that has defined the Netherlands for hundreds of years.
Why launch in the Middle East?
Because we believe, just like Einstein believed, that education is a theory of social relativity. Before it became cool for Mark Zuckerberg and my friends in Silicon Valley to have their own schools, when he founded Hebrew University in Jerusalem, there was no Israel. It was not about politics. It was about him and Sigmund Freud and Weizmann and other innovators saying, education is the way to bring the world together. Coming out of World War II, I think, and I went to the Einstein archives, it's clear in his writings, he looked at that as the theory of social relativity. So in some ways, the Middle East needs this more than ever. They have more smartphones than any other market. They have to diversify their economy from fossil fuels. They have to privatize government services. That's really been things given to them. And they got to inspire young people to touch the heavens, but through astronauts and the idea that a career with science is totally possible.
And you think innovation can take off there, even though some of the regimes there are, well, backward or at least not very,
So I
stimulating.
thought that too, and I spent a week of every month in the Arab Peninsula and as well as Israel and other parts. The heads of state totally understand this. In fact,
Okay.
the fact that they're embracing it
They
so
like it.
quickly, I think they feel they have no choice. They have to get their young people engaged in their world or it will self-destruct. So they're actually some of our biggest supporters. And maybe in a way we can also bridge, like Einstein thought with education, some of these divides. Young people, screenagers, actually fascinated by what they have in common more than what they have different. Our generation, we define ourselves by differences, religion, gender, sectarianism. Actually, screenagers see it very differently. And the Middle East, this grand experiment, I think needs this more than ever. And that's one of the reasons we're going to launch it there.
Terrific. I think I speak on behalf of the audience. Your enthusiasm is contagious.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Thank you.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
Thank
Jeff.
you very much.
Take care. Thank you.